Ed, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Maybe the best place to start. Tell us a little bit more about like your story, your journey, and how you got to where you are
I'll
today.
do that the abridged version, and hopefully it won't be too long. So a lot of people know me. I initially got into, I guess, the internet writing marketing space. I wasn't really initially trying to be there, but it has provided me with a lot of powerful lessons because what I've always wanted to do is write and just write what I want to write, which is why I'm one of the few proponents of a blog. I'm like, you need a blog, you need a website. I write and I love writing, and in my writing, I try to take everything I've learned through professional boxing, growing up in the projects, getting over alcoholism, going back to school for my degree in physics, all of these things, marketing, chess. I try to take all of this stuff and produce content around it. To me, I'm in a fortunate position being a true millennial in that I was born in a time where we weren't trying to build a life that people would look at and be like influence, influence, influence. So I went, and so I have a mindset of like actually developing skills that have nothing to do with my popularity online. And then the internet came along, and turns out there's a big gap for people who have real life experience and do real challenging things. I'm not sitting around talking about discipline and productivity. I was a professional fighter, and I'm a high level chess player now. I'm not sitting around talking about learning and optimization. I have a physics degree and speak another language. Hopefully too soon, but like two other languages. But I try to always get the hard experiences to build to really have a solid foundation for anything I say.
Yeah, man, I love that. And there's one thing that I kind of talk about a lot because obviously boxing and golf are kind of very different sports, but at the same time, they're both quite individual sports, and you take a lot of lessons from that into business, into your other crafts, if you will. So, like, wind it back a little bit. Like, tell me more about how that kind of worked for you. Like, when did you start boxing, and like, how did that kind of shape you, or maybe change the trajectory of your life? Obviously, you know, growing up in the projects can be difficult. Did that kind of put your life on a different sort of trajectory?
Well, it did, but not in the way that people think. I didn't understand or realize what boxing was doing for me at the time, but it's a purifying event because to become good at something like boxing, you have to get rid of a lot of other distractions in your life. And if you try to resist that, your progress will suffer, or other parts of your life will suffer. And so I learned so much from from boxing. I learned how to be just a better fighter, but a fighter in life, go after things. I learned how to relate better to people. I learned, how to care for myself, how to lead myself through boxing. It all comes back, really a lot of it, to that decision to start fighting. And I started fighting at 22 because one of the one of the things I did was I tried to go to college at the regular age at 18 and failed out miserably. And I was, telling everyone that college wasn't worth it and was foolish. And a woman, the mother of the girl I was dating at the time, she called me out and was like, "Well, let's say you're right, college is worth this. What have you done with your life in the past 4 years besides show up and eat my food?" And then she threw me out. And in doing that, I went home and cried a little bit, but she was right. I didn't have any sweat equity to my name on this planet. And I wanted to make sure that if I, I always said if I die, people have something to say about me other than that I just drank a lot. So I found a boxing gym. I wanted to try out boxing, and I needed something to other than just being a dude that goes to work. So I decided to take on fighting, and I'm lucky. I mean, I worked hard, but I'm lucky too. There's two elements of it: luck and how hard you work.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
I think that it made uh it just is it's one of the best things.
So you didn't start till you were 22. Is that what I was hearing?
Yep, I didn't start till I was 22.
Damn, man, that's
And
impressive.
well, I'm a heavyweight, so you can do a lot when you're a heavyweight. You don't have to show up and get the skills, because your body has to mature a little longer. But but starting, is how late is that? I mean, it's late if everyone else is starting at 14, 15 or younger. But there was a lot of guys in the heavyweight division who didn't start that late. And then or start that early. And I also was fortunate enough. I ended up with some great teachers and some really great circumstances to just be around. If you're around the good teachers, you end up being able to absorb a lot more than anyone else. It's awesome stuff. And if you work hard, you can close a lot of time gaps if you work hard. I also ended up getting sponsored. That made a big difference because that gave me 2 years to just train. I didn't have to work. I just trained. And that rarely happens. So I had a lot of stuff that allowed me focus on my training and get better,
Yeah,
not have to
definitely.
worry about, I don't have to worry about a job or anything. So in some ways, I started late, but in other ways, it it ended up working out great. It worked out really well for me because of that.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Like, I totally agree. Like, if you have, because I have friends that are trying to play professional golf, and some of them, man, like they have to spend most of their time working just to be able to fund their golf, and they can't practice and
Yep.
train. But there's a handful of guys that get those sponsorships that can just now dedicate all their time to golf, which is obviously a huge advantage. But like, I'm curious, what was life like as a professional boxer? Obviously, you know, people might think it's like their dream or something. Like, what is it like from a realistic
It's
perspective?
miserable.
Right.
It's a hard life.
Right. How so?
Because you gotta remember something about fighting. It's not like most of the other sports. You're not making a bunch of money. Most fighters have jobs. I was fortunate enough to get a promoter by my sixth pro fight, so I could I was able to just fight and not have to have a job. I was still in school at the same time, but it's hard because you don't. There's a lot of uncertainty, in getting fights. Everyone knows they can't fight at the club level forever, or maybe they don't know that. I mean, I found there's a lot of delusion, which is probably healthy to a degree, but you spend a lot of time devoted to just getting good and being in shape and being strong and fighting well. So that's and you can't do anything else because the other guy is probably not doing anything else. So you need a very smart, tight lifestyle and training plan. So having a good, I was really happy I got sober before I started fighting professionally, not as an amateur, but professionally, because you just don't have that much time. You have, especially, there are guys with families and kids. It's the worst of the entrepreneurship and 9 to 5 world. Because in the not, what's the worst part about the 9 to 5? Your time doesn't belong to you, but you have security, right? That's the upside. But you don't have the security as a boxer, but your time doesn't belong to you. What's the best part about the entrepreneur world? Well, you have your time, but the worst part is there's no security, right? You have your time and you can scale. Well, you can't scale. You're just stuck. But you train and you make it through. I mean, I tell guys all the time that if you want to if you're fighting for money, go get a job because this is just the wrong place to be. If money is even remotely on your top reasons for doing this.
Hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like for you, it was more you're motivated by, I guess, time freedom, right? It was like,
Well, yeah, and I wanted to challenge myself. I didn't want to just, it was a big for me to not just be a guy, right?
mhm.
Like I wanted to be more than, I don't know what the best word is for it. I wanted to have some substance
Yeah, you do
to
want to
my
be average,
life.
man. Like, I feel
Yeah,
like
right. Yeah. You don't want
I
to be
resonate.
average.
Yeah, man.
So you do things that most people aren't doing.
Correct. My biggest
And
fear.
no, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, what would you say your biggest fear?
No, so my biggest fear when I was in school growing up, I literally had this vision of the future and it scared the shit out of me, right? And it was this vision of going to a job, having to put a suit and a tie on every day, having to, spend all this time getting ready in the morning. And like, man, I was like, fuck, like it really, like the fear of not knowing what I wanted shaped all my decisions, right? I wasn't like, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to do what I do now. It was never like that. It was always like I'm moving away from, like, I was like, I do not ever want a job. And I made a vow to myself. I said, I will never, ever get a full-time job, like a corporate job, 9 to 5. I just made that decision and ended up going to college in America, ended up trying to play professional golf in Australia. Didn't work out. But then, man, crazy things happen when you kind of get clear on what you want. Like, I believe in being, kind of rigid on the outcome, but flexible on the approach. I was like, okay, I do want to have a business. I want to do this stuff, and random opportunities, whether it's, the universe or just pure luck, kind of, I guess, fell into my lap. And yeah, I was very fortunate, and that really helped propel me. But yeah, it was all started from like not even wanting to be average.
And like, you wouldn't even be able to see those opportunities for what they were if your mind wasn't aligned and thinking about them that way. Like everyone, people like to say, oh, it was luck, it was luck, it was luck. Maybe there was a luck element, but here's the other part. You have to spot the opportunity. If your mind's not thinking right, you might see, oh, great. It reminds me of that story about the guy who wanted to sell shoes. And he was like, one guy was like, why are you going to that village? They don't wear shoes there. And he's like, that's why I'm going to that village. They don't wear shoes there. It just how you see it. If you're scarcity minded, you'll go, oh, there's no demand for my shoes. But if you're business entrepreneur minded, you go, there's a great opportunity. And that basic idea, I think, applies to so much about working for yourself or, not being average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Sounds like in that situation, creating that demand versus, trying to tap into, demand that's already there. I like that. And you mentioned before teachers, like your teachers were really important for you, like in boxing, right? Like now kind of with what you do, like what kind of teachers have you had and how has that kind of helped your growth in terms of like the entrepreneurial business side of things?
No one's formally sat down and coached me here. It's been a lot of picking things up along the way because we're not dealing with a zero sum system on this. In a zero sum system, you probably need some coaching, especially in something like boxing where mistakes tend to alter the outcome of your life. So you need to have a way to deal with that. So on the other end of things, a lot of it has just been picking up and learning from people. That's why it takes so long. I mean, that's why I think it takes so long, because there's no blueprint. There's a general idea, general strategy for we'll say entrepreneurship, but there's no one way. There's so many ways, and one of my weaknesses or one of my struggles for a while was trying to figure out the best approach that I would be able to take that fits for me and my interest. Because I can listen to everyone, they go, oh, if you go on a drop shipping, run a course, do coaching, like those are all. When I hear that, it's turning entrepreneurship into a job. It's like pick a profession and go with that. It's like, no, there's a different path for every person, and that path is going to depend on so much. It's going to depend on a level of ambition, their natural talents. What do they hate doing and would never want to do? What do they love? Where is their natural, not necessarily the thing they're good at, but they have the most fun doing? So much stuff factors into it that for me, I've had to just pick up different things from different people because I wanted to see different ways of doing things and what works best for me. And I'm still sorting out what works best for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a constant, I guess, mission of refinement, right? And I totally agree. There's, everyone will say, oh, this is the way to do it. But really, what I've found to be true for myself is there's a sort of a saying that I live by. And it's it's not about what works, it's about what works for you, right? And there's a great book, probably the best business book I've ever read. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim by a guy called Michael Masterson, right? He's one of the co-owners of Agora, biggest copywriting company in the world. And anyway, in that book, he talks about in your business, the first thing you have to find is the optimum selling strategy, right? And once you found that, some people say, oh, cold DMs on Twitter. Some people say cold email. Some say, Facebook ads, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? You just got to find which one works for you. And then you've got to go all in on that, right? And so that's kind of the philosophy that I approach because, every marketer sells you on their beliefs, right? Oh, Facebook ads are dead. Try cold calling. oh, sales calls are
Yep.
dead. Try DM chatbots. And so, I mean, there's a lot of noise out there, man.
There's so much, and what you have to do, and this is like the world we're in now with AI, is it makes its way to the masses. No one can give you the answer. You need to be able to think and formulate the question, and then dissect all information and figure out how that will lead you to the correct answer. If you can't do that, then you'll just always be shiny object syndrome. And even if you can, that's not necessarily a guarantee that you won't shiny object, but it becomes a lot more difficult if for any other reason than you're thinking, let me make this fit to me and find my fit here and how best I want to go about this. So like some guys, one of the things I crack up about, some guys are like, man, I want to be able to make millions of dollars and drive Bugattis and Lambos and I'm like, are you sure you want to? Or are you sure that that's just not what the gurus told you wanted? One of the I've always been very clear, man. Like I've worked the math out on roughly what I need per year to have the kind of life I want. Now that calculus has changed a bit since I just had a kid, but I'd probably be like not stressing on $500,000 a year, and that's not that's not some sexy baller number. But imagine most people don't realize what it takes, one, to even make that type of money, and two, to make it the way you want to make it. And the way you want to make it, like not just in terms of delivering the product you want to deliver, but in the following the process that you want to follow. That is huge. I mean, that's a very healthy way to live. It's not. I guess for me, it feels so base and gross to focus on just making money. If you focus on your time, man, and having that and being healthy, being able to do nice things with your family, like work backwards, like, okay, I want to be able to do this, and then you go, wait a second, my dream life might only cost $200,000 a year. That's a lot. And then, well, how can I get there? Well, here's what I do, and here's what I don't have. And, there's a lot of BS floating around on the internet because it's full of a bunch of guys who did it that way, and they think that's the only way because they don't have any real talents or skills. But that's a different rant.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, one of my mentors once had us do this exercise, which was like literally, how much money do you need to live like to cover your bills and expenses, right? The bare minimum amount of money. Then how much money do you need to live like comfortably? A couple of vacations a year, have your own car, blah, blah, blah. And you work that number out on all the expenses. Then it's like, okay, imagine that you could have everything you ever wanted, right? Figure out how much that costs. And I did mine, and it was like 700,000 a year. Like, and that was like, I'm talking about like multiple supercars, crazy mansion. So yeah, people think you need to make trillions of dollars to be rich and be happy. Like my happiness will not change no matter how much money is in my bank, right?
Right.
Like, it will just kind of just make more rich experiences, right? Rich meaning like, with great people when I want, like I love to work, I love to travel, right? And I think if I didn't get to do both, then I'd go insane. So it's finding that like exactly what works for me, and going from there.
It's a good exercise. Once you know what you want, then you can then one of my favorite sayings is get money so you can realize how unimportant money is. No one's gonna ask how much you make. I mean, they might, but like in a conversation with people as you're getting to know them, especially like, and you're not American, so this probably resonates even better with you, is no one, it's such a weird conversation basis of, your income or even what you do. Connect, but when you get away from that, you're forced to actually become an interesting, real person. And you go, oh shit, I don't know what the hell I am or what I do or what I can talk about. But I sure can write some copy, right? Everything is this stuff. I mean, there's no life experience. That's so important to me. I don't know. Maybe, but once again, back to what we were saying. What I'm talking about is what's worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, well, you took the time to get clear on that, which is where, from what we're talking about, like where I think a lot of people go wrong, right? They see the gurus, they say, oh, I want a Lambo, I want a supercar, and like realistically, that's someone else's wants projected onto them, and they think that they want to. No one, yeah, like most people actually don't know what they want, right? Sometimes I even feel like it, and as well, like even sometimes if I don't remind myself, I almost forget what I want. I'm like, yeah, actually, I do
Yep.
want like this, but then I'm kind of like, hang on, that's not actually what I want. So it's, yeah, man, it's definitely a very interesting dynamic, for sure. But Ed, tell me about the book that you're writing.
So the book I'm writing is called Hard Lessons from the Hurt Business, and I'm taking lessons and experiences from boxing in my life and showing how those have shaped me into the person I am today, and how you can use those same experiences to conquer your own issues, particularly those around grit, resilience, anti-fragility, facing difficult situations, and being resourceful, making something out of nothing.
I love that, man. I love that. And Ed, if you could give like a one sentence piece of advice to someone who whether they're looking to start a career in boxing or they're looking to become an entrepreneur, what would that one sentence piece of advice that you could give them be?
Oh, one sentence. The difficulty is something is irrelevant if it's vital to your success.
I love that.
People worry too much about how difficult and how hard things are, and I'm like, nah, that doesn't matter. You have to go and do the work, and if you do that, you're gonna be in good shape.
Yeah, man. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and like it is a good reframe. You have to understand that everything's going to be challenging. It's not going to be put in their lap, and if something's just handed in your lap, it's probably not worth it, right? Like it's actually way more, as you know, in boxing as well. Like when you actually work hard and earn something, like there's no better feeling, man. Like there's actually no better feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I have a great time with everything in life. It's but it's because I earned it. I don't feel like it's going to easily disappear. So it's a good time. And I try to work. I mean, I try to have a good time, but I try to work.
That's it, man. And where can people find you?
I'm at edlatimore.com. And I'm the same on all platforms. Ed Latimore is my Twitter. Ed Latimore is my Instagram. And my website is edlatimore.com.
Awesome, man. Ed, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for joining me for the conversation, and yeah, wishing you all the best.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you. And I hope everything works out great for you too.
Thank you, brother.